Benito Mussolini was one of the fascist dictators of the 20th century. His life offers us a deep look into the political landscape of Italy and the world during that era. In ti video explora how he seized control through force, and how he ultimately met his end by the same force he once used. This is the story of a man who climbed to the top through brutality and fell in the very same way. This is Predappio, a small town in the Fork region of Italy. Today, this quiet town is home to the tomb of a man whose legacy reaches deep into the history of the 20th century. That man is Benito Mussolini. Mussolini was born exactly 142 years ago, on July 29, 1883, in this very town. He took his first steps on these streets, played his childhood games here, and formed his earliest impressions within its borders. Even as a young boy, he had a rebellious temperament. He spent much of his time helping in his father Alessandro's blacksmith shop and listening to stories about Italian nationalist heroes like Garibaldi and Mazzini. His father was a passionate socialist, and he named his son Benito after the Mexican revolutionary Benito Juarez. From birth, Mussolini was surrounded by politics. At the same time, he developed an aggressive and impulsive personality. In 1895, he enrolled in a boarding school in Faenza. He received numerous disciplinary punishments and was even expelled in 1898, after being involved in an incident where another boy was stabbed. Afterward, he enrolled in a school in Forlimpopoli, where he began to focus more on his studies and achieved good results. One of the biggest turning points in Mussolini's life came when he fled to Switzerland for a period to avoid military service. To make a living there, he took up various labor jobs, but he also devoted time to studying philosophy and politics. In Switzerland, he read authors like Friedrich Nietzsche, Vilfredo Pareto, and George Sorel. Sorel's particularly his argument that liberal democracy could be shaken by violent action affected him deeply. From this point onward, Mussolini showed interest in the idea that great change could come through force. Mussolini returned to Italy in 1904, completed his military service, and began building a career in journalism based on the ideas he developed in Switzerland. By 1910, he had become a well-known socialist journalist. His career reached its peak in 1912 when he became chief editor of Avanti, the most important publication of the Italian Socialist Party. With his sharp pen and fiery tone, he defended workers' rights and fiercely criticized the bourgeoisie and the monarchy. Yet, this rapid rise would not last long. A great war was about to shake Europe, and it would change Mussolini's life completely. When World War I broke out in 1914, the Italian government initially declared neutrality, and the Socialist Party also opposed entering the war. But Mussolini gradually adopted a more aggressive stance. He saw the conflict as a historic opportunity for Italy. Instead of the international class struggle advocated by Marxism, he began embracing nationalism and militarism. He argued that if Italy joined the war, it could expand its territory and achieve national unity. This ideological shift isolated him within the party, and in October 1914, he was expelled. A month later, he founded a new newspaper, Il Popolo d'Italia, publishing articles calling for Italy to enter the war. A man who only months earlier had opposed the conflict was now supporting it. Whether this change was sincere or motivated by personal ambition remains debated today. Eventually, Mussolini got what he wanted. He led the war on the side of the Allies on 19th Summer. Mussolini was drafted and served as an infantry soldier for 2 years. In 1917, he was wounded by a mortar explosion and discharged. After the war, like many Italian nationalists, he believed Italy had been betrayed by the victorious powers. Territories promised to Italy such as the Dalmatian coast were not granted. The country faced economic crisis, unemployment, and soaring inflation. Inspired by the 19th Russian Revolution, socialist movements gained strength in Italy, leading to massive worker uprisings in 1919 to 1920, known as the Biennio Rosso, the Red Years. In this chaotic environment, Mussolini returned with a radical new movement. On March 23, 1919, he founded the Fascist Combattimento, the nucleus of the future fascist movement. At first, the group promoted a mix of nationalist and social reforms: an 8-hour workday, universal suffrage for women, and the confiscation of war profits, ideas aimed at appealing to both left and right-wing supporters. But this did not last. In the 1919 elections, Mussolini's group failed miserably, winning not a single seat. Mussolini realized that if he could not win through elections, he would take power through force. The Black Shirts paramilitary squads loyal to Mussolini spread across the country, attacking socialist offices, breaking strikes, and terrorizing political opponents. The state largely ignored these attacks, and wealthy industrialists and landowners quietly financed Mussolini. By 1921, the Fascist Party had grown significantly, and Mussolini himself entered parliament. By 1922, Italy was in political chaos. On October 24th, at a Fascist Party Congress in Naples, Mussolini threatened to march on Rome on October 28th. Thousands of black shirts moved toward the capital. Anticipating civil war, King Victor Emmanuel III refused to use the army against the fascists. Instead, on October 29th, he dismissed the prime minister and invited Mussolini to form a government. On October 30th, Mussolini, just 39 years old, arrived in Rome, dressed in a black shirt and formal jacket. The next day, he became Italy's youngest prime minister. In the early years, Mussolini appeared to pursue a moderate path, but he had no intention of sharing power. He gradually dismantled democracy. In 1922, he was granted special decree powers. In 1923, he made sweeping changes to the electoral system, ensuring that any party receiving 25% of the vote would automatically get a majority of seats. In 1924, using intimidation and violence, the fascists won 65% of the vote. One man, however, continued to resist: Socialist Deputy Giacomo Matteotti. After delivering a fierce speech exposing fascist violence, he was kidnapped and murdered by fascist thugs. Mussolini denied involvement, but on January 3, 1925, he took responsibility in Parliament, declaring, "If fascism has committed crimes, I accept full responsibility." After this speech, dictatorship became official. Opposition parties were banned, unions were seized by the state, the press was silenced, and the secret police OVRA hunted dissidents. Mussolini's cult of personality grew. Everything within the state, nothing outside the state. Propaganda spread everywhere: posters, slogans, salutes, school indoctrination. Economic projects modernized parts of Italy, agriculture expanded, and the mafia's power weakened. Many Italians welcomed the sense of stability after years of chaos. But Mussolini's true ambition was imperial revival. In 1935, he invaded Ethiopia, sparking international outrage and sanctions. Isolated from the Western powers, Mussolini drew closer to Adolf Hitler. In 1936, the two leaders formed an alliance, the Rome-Berlin Axis. Mussolini supported Germany's annexation of Osterdonland on Din Retour Tier 9. Following Hitler's lead, he introduced racial laws excluding Jews from public life. Although some Italians opposed the measures, dissent quickly faded under dictatorship. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland. Starting World War II, Mussolini hesitated. He knew Italy was not ready for war. But in 1940, after Hitler's rapid victories in Europe, he finally entered the war hoping to share in the spoils. This would mark the beginning of his downfall. Italy's military failures came quickly. The invasion of France failed. The attack on Greece turned into humiliation when Greek forces pushed Italy back. In North Africa, Britain drove Italian forces out of Egypt and, later, defeated them at El Alamein. By 1942, Italy was collapsing economically and militarily. In 1943, Allied forces bombed Rome, Naples, and Milan. Public morale crumbled. On July 24th, the Fascist Grand Council turned against Mussolini. By a vote of 19-8, he was removed from power. The next day, he was arrested. But Hitler had not abandoned him. On September 12, 1943, German commandos launched the daring Gran Sasso raid, rescuing Mussolini. Hitler installed him as leader of a puppet state in northern Italy, the Italian Social Republic, headquartered in Solo. But Mussolini was only a shadow of his former self. As the Allies advanced north and Italian partisans gained strength, his territory shrank. In a January 1945 interview, Mussolini admitted, "7 years ago, I was an interesting man. Now I am a corpse. Everything is over." By April 1945, Allied and partisan forces closed in. On April 27th, Mussolini tried to flee with his lover Clara Petacci, but was captured near Lake Como on April 28th. They were executed by communist partisans. His final words were, "Aim at my chest." The next morning, their bodies were hung upside down in Milan's Piazza Loreto, where crowds crossed and threw stones at them. The New York Times wrote, "A man who dreamed of restoring the glory of ancient Rome now lay as a corpse in a Milan square." His body was hidden until 1957, when it was returned to his family and buried in Predappio. A dark chapter had finally closed. Post-war Italy banned all fascist organizations, determined never to repeat such a tragedy. The monarchy itself fell, replaced by a republic in 1946. From the peak of power to a brutal end, Mussolini's life is the dramatic story of a fascist dictator's rise and fall. The lessons from this journey remain preserved in the pages of history and serve as a warning to all nations. to study history carefully and take its lessons seriously.